I think also one of the biggest issues is guys bottle everything up. There's farm advisory firms out there. If you're unsure about what direction you're headed, don't keep travelling down the road with a blindfold on.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're listening, and welcome to the Farming Funny podcast. I'm joined by the the king of potatoes, Jim Fairley, and the Prince of Newton Stewart. We've got Nick Thompson.
I don't live anywhere near Newton Stewart. Stop saying Newton.
It's all about the same area, though, is it not? It's got a big circle around the rock.
Where do you live then, Nick?
Like 10 miles from Castle Douglas.
It's not Castle Douglas, though, because Newton Stewart's 10 miles for Castle Douglas.
In the opposite direction.
Aye, but so you're smack bang in the middle then?
No, I'm nowhere near Newton Stewart. It's about 40 miles from here to Newton Stewart.
And trust me, that road is a nightmare.
Yeah,
the amount of horse and carts you pass is outrageous.
How would you like to be referred to then, Nick? We've got the King of Montrose at the bottom of the screen, Jim Fairley.
King of Montrose? Sandy, your geography is shocking me. You look at Nick, I know that when you look at an OS map, all the lines are really close together when you look at Nick, but that doesn't mean the areas are really close together. That just means there's hill.
That's what I missed in GCSE geography. What do you want to be referred to then as, Nick?
Mr. Easy Care.
The Prince of Easy Cares. There
you go. Why Prince? King.
King of Easy Cares. How are we tonight then, gentlemen?
Very well. Yeah, not too bad. But better mood than 365 days ago, anyway.
What happened last year? Oh, you were knee deep in water and spuds, were you know?
Well, 368 days ago, we got our first over 100 mil. I think it was like 120 mil of rain in the weekend, and had to go and try and fight at lifting gutters. So yeah, but this year it's been like plain sailing. It's not really been difficult at all. People are actually running about putting irrigators out in front of tatty crops to dampen the soil, to carry some soil up their webs, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
It's hard times up in the East Coast, isn't it, Jim?
Oh,
you getting through the spuds, though?
Aye, yeah, so we should be finished on Friday. I mean, that'll be 3 weeks. 3 weeks we're at it, whereas last year, I think it was tried it for it would end up being 6, 7 weeks.
Shit, I remember you going on and on and on about it last year. That's class. I honestly, it felt like it went on longer than the cereals. So that's class.
Well, it felt like Brexit. It was just get into.
I can tell you, it felt like Brexit. It was just painful anyway. God Almighty, it was. So yeah, I mean, you just see it the difference in the quality of the samples coming back in because you're able to handle them gently. You're not fighting to separate them from sticky soils, and it's.
That's great, mate. I'm actually pleased for you because I just remember you having a rough time last year. Hopefully, seeing as your peak season's gone better this year, it means my lambing next year will be better. Surely that's the way it's going to work.
Well, by the sounds of things, I think get it worse.
I was going to say I'd be struggling to console you if it got any worse, Nick.
Yeah,
I think it would be pitching a camp at your road end so you couldn't run away. But then saying that, you would only have to run halfway down, trip and break your neck, to be fair.
I mean, the only worst thing that could probably happen is your entire lambing sheds blew away in a storm one night. And then
I'll tell you, talking about rain, I wouldn't like to be in Florida this week. It looks like they're getting, I think half of Florida has been evacuated or something.
I watched the video there. A meteorologist was talking, and he actually started to cry. I saw the same one. And he was like, I don't know what he meant. I know that it's pressure, which is hot. He's like, it's only dropped 15 millibars in 10 hours.
Yeah.
Which is nothing. And it looks.
So,
have you seen the satellite photo from NASA? It is
mental.
Outrageous how big this thing is.
Yeah. But like, have you seen like the roads and stuff, like leaving Florida, because they've like, I think it's one of the biggest mass evacuations that America's ever done, and like the roads leaving, and then the opposite way, all that's heading back in is basically like trucks with what do you call them on the back, where you can get up high to get the power going and everything. But like just
abs and that.
Yeah, it just looks. It looks like it looks nuts. It looks class. Like it looks like a movie, but it'll be horrendous, obviously, to be there.
So the next time you complain about 20 mil of rain, Nick, you imagine trying to lam yows in that.
Andy, it will not compare, all right? It will not compare.
To be fair though, Nick, I mean, I've seen some fairly gusty days up with us. I've seen a fair bit of rain fall in a day as well.
So that's
hurricane levels in the southwest, you know.
That's from inside the cab as well.
I'm telling you, it helps if you got windows though, Nick. That's the thing.
Hi, Sandy, you've permanently got two in front of your face, pal. I don't know what you're going to do.
Absolute shots fired.
Just you wait, son. It'll come to you when you touch 40 as
I'm
well.
surprised you've not invented the little.
I've got the old contacts on. Well, I usually do. This is me in my nightwear.
Oh, that was quality. What a shot. Love that. That was probably like, that was like high school slagging off, wasn't it?
That's like a mum joke. That's like your mum.
I'm going to say there's a mum joke coming somewhere here. I'm just waiting for it.
Oh, that was class.
So what's been going on with you then, Nick? What's happening down Newton Stewart?
well, we had the first full week of no rain last week, which was brilliant because it was the week that the Easy Cares were going to the sale, so they weren't getting covered in shite, and also it was the week that our new holiday units arrived, so the lorries could get in and out. So it was actually tremendous. But unfortunately, it only lasted 7 days, and we're now back to torrential rain and trying to put decking up and getting to. I mean, we've made such a. I'm just going to have to harrow and put grass seed and roll it when it's done next week. I know it's not going to grow till next year, but I'm going to have to do something because it's just a mess around it. So I've been fanning about with that. I had the Easy Care sale on Friday in Carlisle. I'm getting all my yow lambs, skimmers, and yows into the right place for tupping time. So yeah, it's quite a busy wee time, just kind of getting things sorted. It's basically the start of our year again because you're putting the tups out again. So it's kind of like it's quite a nice time. It's like a reset and start again. And my fat lambs are coming on lovely. So yeah, no, good.
Good man. How was Easy Care sale?
Shite, absolute shite. No, I mean,
Really?
it's a bit. I don't know what happened. It's a real shame. So last year I sold a huge amount of gimmers and a huge amount of yow lambs privately, and I got really, really good money for them, and they're really, really good stock. But I had some left over that I took down to the sale, and last year my gimmers went for like £155, but they were on the small side and they hadn't been fed at all. So I was like, I thought that was respectful. And my yow lambs went for like £100 or something like that. But again, they were the kind of runts that were left over that I hadn't sold privately. So this year I really went for it. So, I had 25 of my best. I didn't sell anything privately. 25 of my best skimmers, put them on the best grass. 25 of my best yow lambs, put them on the best grass. And I had 4 tups, shearling tups that I'd lambed last year that had grown up over a year. So first thing at the ring, well, first of all, I had an absolute shit storm happen. So we drove down to Carlisle, and 25 gimmers in a trailer, and one top of the trailer is quite tight. I didn't have enough sawdust down, and I had the tups and the ear lambs in the bottom split, and that was tight, and I didn't have enough sawdust. So when I got there, they're kind of half covered in shite a wee bit, which I was really fucked off about because I'd like cleaned them the day before. Anyway, got them in. Gimmers in first. Gimmers looked like people were beforehand commenting how good they looked. I even like branded them with Summerhill SH on them. So I was really excited. £145, less than last year, and they were the best I've ever had. So that was a really tough pill to swallow. Only had one person bid on them, so he started at like 250, came all the way down to 145, and I had one person take them. Gone. I would have kept them at that. I never thought they would have gone that low. I would have taken them home at that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So then the year lambs were in. Started well. Well, I got down to like 95, and then they were starting to get a bid. £110. Really disappointed. I was hoping for like 135, 140. So yeah, that was shite as well. The only saving grace of the day, I sold my first ram ever. I got £420 from him.
Fair play. You'll take that.
It was shite, yeah.
Why is it? Why is it back? Because lamb prices, sheep prices have held pretty well this year.
I literally have no idea. And I mean, the fact that the fat lamb price was so high last year. Go on, Jim.
Supply and demand. There's no demand.
There is demand, though.
There's
huge demand.
General.
You're talking about easier. Fuck off, Jim.
Sorry, Adam Smith in the bottom corner here.
There was one guy bid on them. It was his dad in the corner.
And even he got them for a cheap price. Well, like they have a sale at Worcester before, and like the average price of Gimmers was like £215. That was the average throughout the day. So yeah, it was quite late on in the year, I suppose. Like the 4th of October, a lot of people have stuff.
But you're still in at that point.
Yeah, right? And also a lot of people sell privately because. Yeah, I don't know. And actually the society seemed to kind of support the private selling a lot as well, which is probably going to ditch better. But there'll be a lot of people that went this year that won't go again. There wasn't anyone really happy with the price. So yeah, bit of shit. So I'm glad I only took 50 sheep. Because I'm kind of building at the moment rather than dispersing. You know, I could have taken 200 sheep and it'd be a complete disaster. So I'm glad I only took 50 sheep. But yeah, I'll try again next year, one more year of selling them. Because I really want it to kick on and be a big sale. Because you see the same people every year and it's quite a good crack. So I'll try again, same numbers next year. And if it's shite, I'll just sell everything privately. So.
Would you prefer to sell privately? Are you happy going?
No. I mean, I love a day at the market. Like, I love the band around it. I love the whole, like, you know, you've worked really hard. You want to show off your stock. So, yeah, no, I'd rather sell it to the market, but I can't sell them for that. Like, the auctioneer said to me at the beginning, he's like, do you have any reserves? And I thought about it, and I was like, nah, surely the price is going to be sensational. I don't need to worry about it. But yeah, next year I'll definitely be putting reserves in for sure. I don't really like the idea of putting in reserves, but I can't be selling my best year lambs for £110 and my best Gimmers for £145. Like, what I came out and the guy who topped the sale last year said to me, those Gimmers are worth £100 more than you got for them. So that kind of like makes you feel really, really sad that you only got, like, the guy that got them for £145. Fair play to him. He's got an absolute bargain there.
So who topped the sale then? What was the top price?
I don't even know. I was so fed up. I think the top was like, it might have been £1,800. I think top Gimmers around about 200, which shouldn't be the top price. And top young lambs are maybe. I didn't really see maybe 130, 140. So it was really poor in terms of prices. So, but it's a real shame because a lot of those guys won't go again next year, and then it'll end up with the sale dying and probably die a death, which really shines.
I seem to remember a time. I mean, this is going back to my childhood. You're talking 25 odd year ago, but I remember going to it was Thornhill Mule Sale, Crosshair Lamb Sale, and it is an incredibly demoralising thing when
Yeah.
it's not just your pen, but the whole sale was bad. And you're getting like, 40, 42 pound alarm. And it's just grim. It's really grim. And there's not all you can do about it as well, unless you take them back home.
Yeah, the thing that I kind of thought was, I mean, I'm early in building a reputation as a breeder as well. I mean, this is the second time I've sold Easy Cares at the market. So I kind of thought, oh, do you know what? Sometimes you just got to swallow it and it'll get better as you start to build a name. But also it's a bit like, it wasn't just me. Like, it wasn't the case that it was just me that was low for what I wanted. Like, the sale compared to even last year was lower. So, yeah, I really hope it does come back next year, because it'd be a real shame if they got rid of it, because it's the only sale in the north at all. But yeah,
but as you say, it's probably worth remembering that, like with a lot of stock, you'll have folk that have bred for their entire life, if not generations. So you'll have folk that have bred, limousine bulls for 90 years. There's a name behind that. There's pedigree and all the rest of it. Whereas, it is more difficult coming in as a fresh face. But hopefully. But
I mean,
it should be fine.
The other thing as well, say about it as well, Jim always talks about margin. Those sheep selling that price, there was no real cost. For the young lamb especially, they were born in April and they're gone in October. They've made £110. There's no, there's fertilizer on the ground. There's not been any feeding. So, I mean, there's my time, but my time, like, I move them once every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. That's it. So I've had to jag them once, so actually the profit there is probably about £90 when you think about it per lamb. So yeah, it's disappointing, but actually when you look at it like that, it's still made my money. I wouldn't.
If you look at your percentage of profit, it's not a bad percentage of profit.
Absolutely.
The next thing is to make it very viable and stack. It's numbers. It's a numbers game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's all.
I think that's the thing. Well, it seems you're back on last year. If you've got lower input, then your margin should hopefully be about the same, if not a bit better. In which case, it's actually not too bad.
But that's the way I'm trying to justify it to myself. The Gimmers is a different story, because I've had them for 18 months, and they would have got some feed during the winter, and they've had everything twice, so there is probably a lot less margin on them. The Tups has got a great margin, because the Tups were born 18 months ago and then sold for 400 quid. So yeah, I can't really complain in terms of margin and actually in a business sense, but in terms of my pride, it hurt a lot.
So is that what's making you stressed this week then, Nick?
Well, no, it's not sure the units, that money. I mean, I'm bored to absolute tits now trying to get these units up. So yeah, it's just stressful, isn't it, Jim? When you go big, it's stressful.
Yeah, you go through waves of it. So you're at what I call stage one.
Here we go. I'm looking forward to this.
So it's like the three stages of dealing with grief. So the stage one is the realization kicks in, right? So
you're in the balls. You're in the bags, Nick.
you realize, and everything annoys you. Everything pisses you off. Every time you see something go wrong, you just look at it as a cost, and you think, how's this going to work? How's this going to work? How's this going to work? You then get to the point where, well, you're in so deep now, what are they going to do? Come and take it off? They're going to dig it out of the field.
Yeah, true.
It's the bank's problem, not you.
It's the bank's problem. It's not my problem. It's not my money. I just borrowed it. So, like, if it goes wrong, and then stage 3 is actually realizing what you've done is a really good thing, and you just get to the point where you're almost clear, and you go, "Fuck it, let's go again."
Yeah, can I tell you what, Jim? You're pretty fucking nailed. So at stage 1 at the moment, where every little thing is difficult, and we're just struggling on, and I'm grumpy all the time. And poor Holly, anytime she wants to talk about anything, I snap like straight away. I'm just so grumpy. Even my dad, I've been snapping at. What was stage 2 again?
Stage 2 is when you're starting to see it like work, and then you start to realize, well, it's not my problem if it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I'm getting close to that. I'm just like, keep borrowing money. Yeah, who gives a shit? You know what they're going to do. So I'm kind of halfway there. But also we've already talked. If these 2 units work, I'm going to put another 2 next to them. So I've pretty much nailed all 3 stages.
That's a pretty decent synopsis. I'll give you that, Jim. Actually, that's a pretty fair representation of.
But it's true. On a serious note, the start is very scary. The start is because you're in uncharted territory, and when you become comfortable with it, it's a different feeling. And I think this generation of farming, we all have to live with debt, and it's how you manage it. And carrying debt's not a bad thing; it's a good thing. As you know, if I ever get myself to the point where I'm free of it, which I won't be, because when I get an opportunity, I'll just go again. But if I ever get to the point where I am and I hand on a business, if somebody wants to come into it, I am going to make them farm with debt because it keeps you sharp. Because if you don't, then and you start to adopt a method of, it's not the end of the world, it's not the end of the world, that catches up with you. And by the time you're in the mindset of being like that, it's very difficult to change. Whereas if you have someone that's, you've got to be answerable to a bank or a lender of whatever sort, you have to go that extra yard, and it changes you as a person to go that extra yard. So it installs a work ethic into you, which is greater than, having cash in the bank and not playing at it, but like just you end up playing the safe game too safe as well. I've noticed people, it's almost like, don't want to lose anything they've got. Whereas you'll find that someone that doesn't have too much will always do more with their business going forward than people who have got it.
Can I just say, you're absolutely right in terms of like with the debt, it keeps you sharp and it keeps you moving. And I mean, you're literally like doing a balancing act all the time, but you're always thinking about it, and you're not stopping. Like you never sit back and relax and think, this year's going to be fine. I'm constantly like, right, how many tips do I need to put out to these easy cares so I can get to 200%? Or, how much do I have to push my wife until she leaves me, but like kind of balance it right on the middle there. And I think that's actually not, but I agree with you. Although it's fucking stressful living like that, actually, in terms of the business, in 10 years' time or 15 or however long it's going to take me to pay off all this debt, once I get there, life's going to be, tremendous. But you've got to keep moving, haven't you? Otherwise, life gets.
Well, here's a question for you. If you didn't, obviously the opportunity with the huts is a much more favourable payback than buying agricultural land, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't buy your farm, would you have thought so far out the box in order to generate extra income?
Well, I wouldn't have had the opportunity. I think
No, but if you had it, if you owned it, like you didn't buy it, if you just owned it and it was debt free, and you just farmed what you farmed, and there was
I see.
Would it have pushed you to doing this?
No.
Because you probably would have thought, it's a bit risky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas you're kind of in the balance of the farming works, but to buy this land, and I'm going to be 60 by the time we've paid it off.
Yeah,
I'd rather something else. Like you can work away doing that, and that's fine. But then that's your limit. That's you done. You're tied. You can't. Whereas you're looking at it going, I need to get this down quicker. I need to get this debt down quicker. How can we do that? Like cheap investment, high return on investment. It doesn't get bothered with the weather. It doesn't get, and I always think that is what keeps you sharp.
100%. I couldn't agree more, Jim. I think you've absolutely nailed that. And I mean,
because I've been through it. I'm the Bible for it, mate. So when I'm lying in bed at 2:00 in the morning and the alarm goes off, AD plant, engine down, It's that fear of like, I have to get out. I can't leave it to be off until 7 o'clock in the morning. That's 5 hours of generation on a tariff that lasts for 20 years. It doesn't last for a certain amount of kilowatts. So if I'm not producing it, doesn't matter. I can always get it. It's on a it's on a countdown. So if I miss it, never getting it back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I think actually, Jim, like for the listeners, there's a really important message, and actually, I think it's what gets us out of bed. As you say, if I know there's a cow calving or sheep lambing, I can't just leave it up to fate. Every single one matters, and like every day matters about getting these huts up and running. And yeah, it keeps you sharp. I like that. It keeps you sharp.
So, would that be your advice then, boys, to people who are sitting on maybe a farm that's half owned, half rented? What would be your advice?
A farm
what would you
half,
do?
Like half, like
say you've still got a bit of debt, but you've got a decent amount of equity in the land. You're working away. You're 35, 40. What would you do? Would you aim to pay that debt off till you're down to zero and it's fully owned? Or would you, as you say, Jim, would you be looking and thinking, well, I've got X amount of equity in here, I want to go again and do a couple of other bits?
Well, for me, it all depends on other circumstances. So if you've got family that are coming on that wants to, come into the business, then I would look at it completely differently. I'd be like, right, what can I afford? Gear yourself up to sort of 30% borrow to value ratio and go and buy some land, If I didn't have anybody following on, then I would probably want to hunker down, get that debt down, and then probably sell it, if I don't have anyone coming on. And that way you realise your asset value there. And then you can, if you do have family, you can then share it on. But one thing I would say about the debt thing is, say you're looking at buying a farm, piece of land, and say you think in order to get it, you've got to pay over the odds, right? Over the odds today is a reasonable price in 10 years' time, and it's cheap in 20 years' time. Because as history tells us, and it only ever went wrong maybe once or twice, during when interest rates went to 17%, land price did come back a bit, right? But every single thing you buy for £1 today, you will never be able to buy for £1 in 10 years' time. Never. Like, it's game over. Yeah. So even if you think, oh God, we're going to pay through the nose for this, and some people don't want to pay through the nose for a farm because they don't want the reputation in the county of paying too much for land.
No.
But you look back at all these guys, you ask your dads, and you go back and you say who was buying up all the ground at the time, they would have laughed at how much they paid.
Yeah.
There's only one person laughing now.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. There's a boy up near his neighbours us on a couple of sides, and 40 years ago, 80s, bought up the most undesirable hill ground you could imagine.
Are you talking about your dad here?
No, it was on a par with some other hill ground, just in the arse end of nowhere, no access, no houses, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then planted the whole thing with trees and made an absolute killing off it. And he was buying it. He was buying it for about £100 an acre.
If you don't have it, if you don't have it, you can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to get away from. In agriculture, there's too much of this saving face. If they buy a farm, they have to basically, if things get tough, they have to bankrupt themselves to the point where they have to keep hold of it. You've got to treat it like it's a business. If you owned a fast food restaurant chain, right, and you were starting to suffer, it would be so easy, but we'll just sell 2 of them then.
Yeah.
And we'll keep the rest and we'll hunker down.
Yeah.
In farming, it is so different. People will literally go to the ends of the earth and almost sacrifice their own life for 20, 30 years to pay that off.
But do you think, Jim,
but why
this is the reason that, like,
because it's all about saving face.
But do you think we're moving away from the kind of traditional just family farms to farm businesses because that is a big problem? Like, people are doing that. So, like, now actually the people that are getting ahead, and as you say, these people that bought up all the farms, whatever it was back in the day, and the people really making a good go at it, not playing at it, are actual businessmen and women, rather than just, dad had 20 cows and 100 sheep, I'll take them on and keep the 20 cows and 100 sheep. It's much more, what's the word I'm looking for, like, particular. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you need to know, first and foremost, it's an industry that's becoming more of a business orientation nowadays.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I always look at it. Always look at it and I go, and this is not an issue. Like, people have this sort of stigma that, if you're not a good business because you're thicker or you've not, just because you're born to your mum and your dad who've got the farm doesn't instantly make you a businessman.
No.
But you can excel in a way that if you pull the right resources around you, you might not be great at doing your books or doing your or figuring out a financial plan of how you should do it. Pull in somebody to do that for you. There's plenty of farming and advisory firms out there that can help you on that path. Looking at grant options, looking at your margins, what's working for you, what's not working for you. But I've always said the guy with the knowledge on the ground will always be better than the guy in the office, because the guy in the office, if you can't make the product or you don't have the volume of product to sell, you can be as good in the office as you think you are. If you don't have it to sell, you've got a problem. Whereas at least if you've got it to sell, you've got, like, for example, take me for example, prime example. We left a company that we supplied our potatoes to 7 or 8 years ago. And this guy my dad and his dad knew each other through, like, curling world and stuff like that. And so he came to me and he said, I'm a potato trader. And Dad, we were getting kind of courted by a few companies because they kind of knew we were leaving where we were. And every single one, they were all corporate. They came across as like, oh, we'll do the best for you. And it was like an individual source of supply. So it was like either Tesco's or it would have been like Morrison's. It was. So this guy came along and was like, look, I'm setting up a business on my own, going to be a trader. And Dad said, look, listen to him, really good family, really honest people, like really good. And I said, okay, how many people have you got? How many potatoes behind you got to trade? Because obviously it's all volume, the more volume you've got, the better deals you'll get. And he sat in this office across from me, he went, no one, I don't have anyone yet. And I went, right, okay, deal, sell my tatties. So from there, 7 years ago, he now sells with his brother and another friend that they have. They've got a business called Tegro. They sell over 100. They trade over 100,000 tons of potatoes now in 7 years, and they've got clout and they've got ability, and they can do things. They can make the markets move in our favours nowadays. You see. Now I looked at it, and I'm not a salesman, right? Leave that to them. I'll grow them. You sell them.
Yeah.
So it's the same. It's the same in principle.
But that's like anything in business. You've got to realise your strengths and realise your weaknesses. And there's always people out there you can bring in to help you. And you look at anyone like the Richard Bransons and all these sort of guys, and they'll quite happily admit that they're shit at finance or they're shit at this and that.
Well, Richard Branson actually said that.
Their skill is knowing where they're shit and bringing in people that are better than them.
But I think that's the biggest barrier in agriculture, because people don't want to admit they're not good at anything.
But so going back to your other point, Jim, just quickly, you were saying that if you had a fast food restaurant, you'd sell two, that you'd just hunker down a bit. In farming, that doesn't happen. People go to the end of the earth to keep hold of it. But you saying that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think that's a bad thing. I think because it could have such a
you should be prepared to sell off a bit.
I think you should be. Yeah, I like if you go and buy something. Obviously, if what you've got and you've not borrowed, and you're losing money, you've got to address that situation because there's something fundamentally not right within the original setup you have.
Yeah,
and if you sold something, it would just keep happening. But if you go out and buy something, and interest rates move a bit, you put it on variable, you've maybe not made the best decision that way. It's an oversight of a mistake that's ends up costing you quite a bit of money. Don't feel tied to it. Treat it as a tradable asset and put yourself back in a stronger position to maybe be able to go in 10 years' time or 5 years' time for something else again.
And have another bite of the cherry.
I think there's too much of this gossiping going on, and have you heard? And the rumor mill goes, have you heard so and so sold that farm, and they've done that. They only bought it 5 years ago, and things like that. You're like, no, I actually really respect him for doing it because he's like, I'm not putting the crown jewels on the line. I'm not going to bed panicking every night because the reality kicks in. It's all fun and games until the lights go off.
I've got a question though. Our industry is the one industry where they're not producing any more of it. Like there's only so much land, and you'll be exactly more so, Jim, where you are. Land doesn't come up for sale very often, so it's like I totally get what you're saying. Like with the fast food restaurant, if you've got 100, you can sell off 2 to kind of cover yourself and stuff like that. If you start selling bits of land off, you're not necessarily ever going to get them back.
Yeah, but you're not any use if you're not here.
Yeah, true.
And that could be stress in terms of, organ health. It could be mental health. I look at it and I get what you're saying, right? But we live in this bubble. Every generation always lives in this bubble thinking the big farmers are getting bigger. They're going to take over eventually, right? Go back 100 years. Who were the big farmers 100 years ago? I bet you they're not the big names in the area now. Yeah, empires rise and empires fall. Otherwise, none of us would be in farming because the big boys from 100 years ago would have everything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think that their barrier to expansion would have been in our area. I can only talk about our area. Who wants to drive 20 miles on the road in a Fergie, 135 with the fucking reek pouring in your face? But nowadays it's easy in a 50-55k tractor. It's easy. Yeah. But the barrier that we have that they didn't have is labour.
Yeah.
It's physically getting the people to do it to cover that ground. And because you've got bigger machinery, you're expected to do it with less people, which means more hours for these less people. The environments all change all the time. So there'll be one barrier could be this, and then generations down the line, there's another barrier is this. Yeah. So,
because I think it comes back nicely to what we were saying at the very beginning in terms of going again and having another shot and taking on more debt, etc., etc. And I think that is, from a business sense, a very sensible thing to do. But on a personal level, you need to be able to make sure that you can handle it, because, as you say, Jim, there's absolutely no point if you're not here. Yeah, and there are instances, and the three of us all know instances in where people have ended up in hospital over incredibly stressful situations, and as you say, it's just not worth that.
I think we need
to be able to manage it.
I think we also have to have a reality check that you're not as hard up as you think. Take yourself out of the picture of the farming world, and you look at the rest of the world. You're not in a bad position. Your glass isn't half empty; it is actually half full.
Yeah,
that's
quite motivational, John.
I think we get lost in the moment of, because you're in farming, you speak about farming, you open a Farmers Weekly and it talks about this 5,000 hectare farmer or that 3,000 hectare farmer. What you've got to realise is, it's probably the same guy in the magazine every other week. I just don't read it every other week. But sorry, Sandy. But you look at the big bad world and how people sometimes have to scrimp to pay things. We're not that bad. We're not.
This is
that.
I think that's the thing. I think because agriculture can be and is in a lot of ways very insular, and we've discussed it on here before, and where people who will go to work and put in a 12-hour day to come home and talk farming for the rest of the 5 or 6 hours that they're up. Farmers only ever talk about farming, but when you take a step back and look at, you've only got to walk down any major high street in the UK, and you realise that you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Still scary though. Like I do agree with your point.
Oh no, yeah.
But, like
it's scary in a different way though, Nick, isn't it?
But we're getting close to the stage where we're maxed, like maxed.
Yeah, but here's something for you, right? What can they do? They can't do anything to you. They're not going to turn up and be like, oh, give us the keys to your L200. That's it.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what I mean? It'd be inhumane to get you to walk down that road to the bus. I'm telling you right now. You can take that to the human.
You're assuming the boy can get up the driveway in the first place.
Why do you think he's got it like that? Bring it on, boys. You can get up here, you can have it. But yeah, they can't, you just got, I know it's so easy saying this, and I lived with this torment for 6 or 7 years. And it was horrible. But you get to the realization point, and it's a little bit like F you, what are you going to do? And you've got to remember there's so many people in much bigger volumes, and there's so many quotes out there of guys going, you borrow a couple of million from the bank, it's your problem. You borrow 20 million from the bank, it's their problem.
Yeah, really true.
I'd love to see a standoff between Jim and his bank manager. I'd pay good money for that.
I think his life's stressful, worse than my life.
But it is one of these ones that if you get yourself, there's a difference between keeping yourself sharp and keen and focused, and keeping yourself sharp, keen, focused, and hella stressed out.
Yeah.
Because that stressed out bit really affects, because it makes you procrastinate. You procrastinate so much that you don't actually get anything done.
Yeah. Agreed.
But I think that's exactly right, Jim. There's that. If you go too far, it just completely consumes you. Whereas if you go to the point where you can always see a way out or a road out, or there's a plan of, if I keep doing this and we do this, this, and this, that's going to happen and that will work. That's different to being in a place where thinking, I have no road out of this. This is an absolute shambles. And it's that, I suppose that's part of the skill of it, is knowing how far to push it.
And I think also one of the biggest issues is guys bottle everything up. Like I say, there's farm advisory firms out there. If you're unsure about what direction you're headed, don't keep traveling down the road with a blindfold on.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone, get them in for a meeting, have a chat, show them things. There is always a means to an end. Always. There's never, never, I 100% never, oh, right, there's no other solutions.